John loved it just as much. He told me how compatible John and I were and wished we had meshed more. I eventually told Michael the first didn't care what John liked because he was pretentious, and we never got along. He seemed offended but quickly recovered, and by the next day, everything was good again. About a week later, Michael would talk up John randomly and seemingly without reason. "Hey, I talked to Brittany yesterday, and man, John is a god in bed, haha. Maybe I should ask the guy for tips? John is volunteering at that shelter we went to a couple of weeks ago. What a guy. We should have John make us dinner. He's a great cook." It was every day to every other day I had to hear about John's greatness, and it was to the point I initially thought that Michael wanted to date John. Then, 3 weeks ago, after we had some drinks, he asked me, if we ever broke up, would you date someone else in the group? I had no idea what to say because it was so random, but he quickly filled the void by saying, "I think I would have if I were you and John were single." Seriously? So 3 days ago, I confronted him in the kitchen and told him that if he wanted to tell me anything, I would listen to it no matter what and that I would always be there for him. He seemed confused and told me he had no idea what I meant by that. So I brought up all the times he talked about John and how he would date him and told him that if he wanted to date John, I understood and would support them. After all, they're best friends, so they have a good connection. When I say he blew up, I cannot stress how angry he was. He used a dozen slurs for gay people and said he was disgusted I saw him like that and that he would never do something like that. We ended up getting in a huge fight over it because I certainly don't support his language or attitude toward LGBTQ folks and that it was just a vibe I got from him, and I didn't mean to mislabel him. We haven't talked, but he stays at his parents' house. Today, John called me to tell me he didn't support Michael's attitude toward me and invited me over to talk about it, even saying that Michael was 100% okay with it. Am I crazy? Am I making up some convoluted story in my head, or is this bizarre? Update: I called Michael when he got off work, and he asked me if I had gone to vent to John. Naturally, I didn't because we're not close, and I told him as much. He didn't have much to say, so I started on your suggested questions. Why are you pushing me toward John? Do you want to break up? He got defensive again and said he refused to talk about it over the phone and suggested we meet at John's place to talk it out. I asked why John had to be included since it is really between the two of us, and he told me that it was really between the three of us. I refused to meet at John's for obvious reasons and told him we could meet at a restaurant if it had to be the three of us. He seemed fine with that, and we scheduled a meeting at a bar/grill close to us. I showed up early and got us a table with some privacy, and not long after, John walked through the door. He sat down immediately and started chatting about how we were both timely and liked when women showed up early because it showed they had good time management skills. 25 minutes after Michael was supposed to show up, he texted me and said he had car problems and couldn't make it but to get to know John since I was already there. I'm just beyond livid at this point. John keeps trying to buy me drinks and even schedules another time to hang out. I confronted him about Michael pushing me toward him, and he acted like he didn't know what I was talking about. I kept mentioning how Michael was talking about him to me, and John just said that it made sense because brothers have brothers' backs. I told him the brothers could have each other and left fuming. Michael tried calling me 3 times, and John tried 7. I want to cut them both off and say good riddance, but to do that would be leaving the friend group as well. I don't have that many friends to begin with, and it makes me so mad that I even have to make this decision. Update: I went to Michael's house early this morning since I have work today and needed this resolved. I had been up all night going back through the comments and trying to piece everything together, and honestly, it was driving me crazy. Michael was alone when I got there, which was a relief because I pictured John showing up as a movie villain. He initially didn't want to let me in, which was weird, but I told him I wouldn't leave without talking to him about this, so he finally let me come in, and we talked. I asked him about the last night, and he said he had car trouble, but it was all fixed now. Convenient. I asked him a few more questions but was met with vague answers, so I just cut to the chase and said, "Why do you want me to like John? Do you want me to date him? Do you want to have a threesome? What is it?" Once again, instead of answering, he watched me from his stupid chair and then had the nerve to ask me who I told my suspicions. So I said I'd been running them through my head, but my mom knew I was coming over to talk. He got mad and said it wasn't like that, and I was making him out to be the bad guy because they were looking for something long-term, not just a one-time thing. And now that all my suspicions were 100% confirmed, I told him you couldn't make plans including someone else without their consent, that I would never be interested in anything with the two of them, and that I was no longer interested in anything with just him either. I started leaving and told him never to contact me again. The same goes for John. He could share the message when he blocked my way out and said I had to hear him and his side of the story. I told him I didn't want to nor care to and that he needed to let me leave because my mom was expecting me in the next half hour. He started getting frantic, saying it would all make sense if he could just get John over there to explain. So I ran out the back door, used the garden exit to get to my car, and locked the doors immediately. He came outside and started pounding on my windows, saying I was making a huge mistake and regret it. I was bawling in my car when I backed it up to drive away. I'm pretty sure I drove over their mailbox by accident because the back of my car has a huge dent. My car was basically out of gas, so I had to stop even though I only wanted to put as much space between us as possible. When I was about to leave, who else would call my name but his mom? She was on her way home from the grocery store and was worried because I looked like hell warmed over. I told her about everything that just happened and got more than a few stares from other people, but F it, I guess I'm just the crazy lady at Maverick. His mom looked horrified at me and told me to stay as far away from him as possible. She told me to sit with her in her car, and she proceeded to ask me when I met Michael, who was in high school. She figured as much and said that in middle school, he and John roped a girl together and have a sealed record because they were minors and didn't mean to do it. She told me how sorry she was because she said it happened so long ago she thought he changed. She put him in therapy and thought he was better. She said if she had any idea there might have been a chance of this happening, she would have told me immediately. I just gave her a quick bye. I'm so scared of everything. I'm going to my mom's since they both know where I live. I sent a mass text to everyone in the group detailing everything, and so far, 3 people have said they support me, so that's good, I guess. I'm never talking to them again. I've already blocked them both on everything I could think of, but I've been getting hidden number calls since. I'm considering going to the police station to file a harassment complaint so that it's at least documented. My mom said she would call my uncle, who works at the court, and see the next best step.